well that he wins.
I was afraid there was going to be a point that I pushed you too far, and I feel that we have just gotten up to that point. But we really appreciate how playful you have been on the lighter note with all of that, and it was just great. I mean, it was just a great moment to watch. You know that obviously Brad Pitt is a fan of yours and all of your information as well.
Yeah. Okay. Go towel yourself off, Allison, will you? How embarrassing. Disgusting. In the context, 2020, when people are not being allowed to see their loved ones in hospitals and hospices, when kids are committing suicide because they're isolated and despondent. I mean, these people. The new Tony Fauci, I mean, not in that sense, but took over the position and has brought a actual level of sobriety to it. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, head of NIH now, had to spar with Marge. We have so much to get to. Senator, we have just so much to get to. We can't allow you to answer questions. Great debate moderator she was, if you'll recall, in 2024. And she does the same routine every Sunday. These people are just intolerable, really. But Dr. J did a good job of setting Marge straight, large Marge straight, including on the importance of, yes, going back to 2020. Yes, talking about everything with respect to vaccine schedules and public health in the context of what we did in 2020 so that we do it exactly the opposite of the way that Tony Fauci and the crew did it.
Parents trust that they can go vaccinate their kids when their doctor tells them to do so for them to go back to school.
I think that the parents, for most kids, especially for the measles vaccines, the DTP, all the standard childhood vaccines, it's very important that parents vaccinate their kids. As far as can they feel confident sending back to schools, I just to push back some, it was a tremendous mistake to cause parents to fear about sending their kids to school during the COVID pandemic. The kids were better off in school. We shouldn't be scaring public.
I'm talking about what people do now. It's August, about to be September.
Yeah, but Margaret,
I'm not talking about 2020. I'm talking about 2026.
We're talking about the why people have
from the federal government
just so we're
and
clear.
the top health official.
If you want clarity, let me give you some clarity.
Please.
The reason why you have this problem of public trust is because what happened in 2020 has not yet been addressed.
Can these parents trust you? And the recommendation that they should get their kids vaccinated.
The parents should trust me. I'm giving my recommendation. I've vaccinated my kids. I don't think that I think if you want to protect your kids from these sort of parental diseases, yes, you should vaccinate your kids. But it is even more important that these kids go to school. Mm-hmm. That in no way, shape, or form should this show or any other show like it perpetuate the idea that sending their kids to school is worse because there's going to be some health risk there, when it's just not true, right? If you want to protect your kids from those preventable diseases, vaccinate your kids. I've been very, very clear about that. But it is a mistake, and it contributes to the lack of public trust if you sort of fearmonger around, if you send your kids to school, well, you might be around unvaccinated kids. That's a tremendous mistake, right? If you vaccinate your kids, you can protect your kids from those risks, whatever they are. In any case, it's better to send the kids to school because that's how you keep kids healthy.
Yes. We want to send our kids to school.
But now addressing what happened in 2020 is part of that. If you want to say why there's this loss of public trust, you have to really wrap your arms around that.
Yeah, I'm glad he stuck to it and went back to it time and again. You're not getting away with it. You're one of the fearmongers. He was too polite to say it. For more on this and other matters, pleased to be joined by Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice and the National Security Division, former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Moreno, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, it's been a while. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to have you back. So the case to hold Tony Fauci in contempt. I mean, we've got some recent precedents with Bannon and Navarro, and the Supreme Court vacated the Bannon conviction, and Navarro's conviction is still pending appeal, maybe to the Supreme Court. So is it worthwhile, in your view, for the Department of Justice to take this criminal referral from the Senate Homeland Security Committee and run with it?
See, Dan, I think you used the word worthwhile, and I think that's a good word, because I think from the perspective of a U.S. citizen, of a good governance guy who just wants to know what happened, I was mortified, right, when I see Dr. Fauci take the fifth 100 times or so and not answer a single question before the Senate Homeland Security Committee. As a defense lawyer, though, right, if he were my client, and there were people that were calling for him to be investigated and prosecuted at the federal and state level, the sort of careful approach would be don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And so then the Justice Department will have to think about, did he have a legitimate Fifth Amendment right to assert there? There's arguments on both sides, right? Because, of course, he had the pardon from President Biden, right, his auto pen pardon. So one would say, well, you have nothing to worry about as long as you tell the truth. Right? We can't second guess anything you did or said or wrote back before 2025. On the flip side, Fauci would say, well, how can I be sure you're going to honor that pardon and not try to railroad me anyway? So you would go down this whole rabbit hole of whether or not there was a constitutional issue about the Fifth Amendment. It would take years to work out. The guy's 85 years old. So when it comes down to it, is there a strong case of holding him in contempt? Yes. Have the Democrats on the flip side held conservatives in contempt in recent years? Yes, they have. They broke precedent, right? First prosecutions in 50 years of Bannon and Navarro for contempt of Congress. But is it really worth it? Is it really worth trying to prosecute this 85-year-old guy? I think personally it's more worthwhile to try to get the information from him that he has. And if that means immunity to get it, that's probably the way I would go, much as it would pain me to do so.
Mm. And part of it is we don't know. There's some 34,000 messages recovered from his phone, and we don't have the full accounting of that yet. So, that could be instructive as well. The threat at the state level, these investigations running concurrently, allegedly in several states, perhaps most notably in Florida. I mean, I hear that, and I understand that the federal pardon doesn't cover state-level charges, but I also have a hard time figuring out what sort of colorable case could be cobbled together to charge Fauci at the state level in Florida or any other state. I mean, first on jurisdictional issues, and then secondly, just in the substance of the case you could make against him under a particular state statute. Do you see something that I'm not seeing?
I mean, look, a clever prosecutor can figure out how to bring a case against anybody, right? It might not hold up when it gets to court, but you can find all kinds of ways of charging people. So they could probably create some kind of obstruction or a false statement that Fauci made that allegedly affected state policy or something. It would not be easy. Mm-hmm. So again, I get the desire to investigate and get information. But when it comes time to actually going through the mechanics of a prosecution, there would be challenges at the federal level. At the state level, it would be a real uphill battle.
The other matters, some revealed last week that you would have expertise in addressing. The 2020 election may not have been the most safe and secure election in the history of our country, we find out. After it was revealed that there were some 600,000 plus election records in Maricopa County, Arizona, key swing state, that were compromised. Now, there's no allegation that there was ballot manipulation or vote total manipulation, but nonetheless, there was an understanding that there was a vulnerability there, and it could have been exploited in a fraudulent way. And there was a whistleblower. There was somebody who admitted that he had compromised the system, and the documents that were declassified. No one under the Biden regime was interested, or if they were interested, could find a federal prosecutor who was interested in pursuing this case. Meanwhile, they're all publicly saying, safe, including Chris Krebs, cybersecurity, safest and most secure election in history, nothing there. Anybody who suggests that there are vulnerabilities in the system is a crank, is a election denier, so on and so forth. It seems like that needs a more fulsome explanation and accounting for?
Yeah, I think that there's two things that really just kind of I have a hard time getting over. One is the pure numbers, right? 15 million new voters popped up in 2020, more than had voted in 2016. Fast forward to 2024, those 15 million drop off. How did we possibly spike by 15 million new voters in 2020 in the midst of a pandemic? Those numbers have always bothered me. Where did all these voters come from, and where did they drop off? So that's one thing. The other thing
and by the way, just for clarity, you mean voters on the rolls, not ballots cast, but on the rolls.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
that's
yes.
a key distinction. Go ahead.
And sorry. And then the other one is, why does one side of our political spectrum, and we know who it is, fight so hard against what I think most of us would consider very, very basic security measures, like showing an ID when you vote, right? Having to prove your citizenship when you register or change states. Why would one side of the spectrum fight so hard against these most basic things unless they felt they were benefiting from the lack of these safeguards? And so I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying there's some deep, dark conspiracies that I can't prove, because I don't like saying things like that. But when I see these wacky number changes, and when I see these politicians just go to the mat refusing to consider the most basic safeguards of one of the most important things that we do as citizens in this country, is to vote for federal offices every 2 years. Why would that be the case unless they had something to hide?
Well, right. And the Department of Justice passing on a case that looks like a violation of federal election law, and the cybersecurity point person going on 60 Minutes and saying things that he knew, we now know, were untrue. Like, you can still say it's a safe and secure election, but it's not without vulnerabilities. And let me give you an example. This vulnerability, that's full disclosure. You can say, okay, so we identified this vulnerability, we investigated it, we know it's a problem, something that's going to have to be addressed on a go-forward basis. But I'm here to say it didn't change the outcome in the state of Arizona, and so on and so forth. Fine. But when you don't disclose it, you create all the more suspicion, legitimate suspicion.
Yeah. And I think the most simple way to improve people's confidence in our election system is to shine a spotlight on these concerns. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, right, look into it. If it doesn't turn up anything, fine, tell people. But to kind of hide it, to ignore it, to not prosecute it, not investigate it, again, it undermines people's trust and people's eagerness and participate in our political process if they don't feel that their vote is worth something.
Todd Blanche finally got through as the newly minted Attorney General. What is your view of that selection and the job that he'll do?
So full disclosure, I've known Todd for about 10 years. We were law partners together. We've been friends for the last decade. So I've got the benefit of knowing him personally. So I've been up front. I've practiced law with him. I've seen him in court. He's a very skilled litigator, and he's a very good, solid guy. So I come with that bias. That said, even if I didn't, though, I think it would be hard to debate that he's not qualified. Mm-hmm. Right? He's 10 years in the Southern District of New York, which is one of the most elite U.S. attorney's offices in the country. He served as now deputy and then acting attorney general, so no one knows how to do the job of attorney general than having had served as deputy, because the deputy at the DOJ is a very, very hands-on job, as you know, Dan, right? Every U.S. attorney, every assistant attorney general, all Senate confirmed, all roll up under the deputy attorney general, who really runs things day to day. Not a ceremonial role. It's a very hands-on role. And Todd has had that job for the past year. So he knows the system. He knows how the court systems work. He knows how to pick losers and winners in terms of cases. He knows how to identify solid prosecutors and managers. So I think he'll do a great job. And I understand that people go to the sort of first argument that, well, he was President Trump's lawyer in a prior life, right? So how can he then be objective? I see it a little differently. I mean, the president should have an attorney general that he can trust. And President Trump in particular was really burned by a lot of Washington insiders, particularly in his first term, right? So I can understand he wants someone that he can trust. And basic legal ethics would prevent Todd from continuing to represent the president on anything he knows was involved in personally, so he had to recuse himself. And I have no doubt that he will do that. And I have no doubt that Congress, particularly if it's controlled by Democrats, will make sure he does that. But beyond that, I completely understand why the president wants someone he knows he can rely on. And I think Todd's a great selection in that respect.
Yeah. The left likes to, forget on again, off again that the attorney general is part of the executive branch. They're not going to be unknown quantities regardless of who the president is, as we've seen over the course of American history. But they're very naive when it comes to choices that are not their own. Joseph Moreno, former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice and the National Security Division, former staff member with the FBI's 9/11 Review Commission, and a U.S. Army combat veteran. Joseph Moreno, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great week.
You too. And he